Democrats in Minnesota held their primary elections this Tuesday and outdid themselves. They chose the best and the brightest in the state to contend for high office in November. Among them, DNC Vice Chairman Keith Ellison. He won his primary race for the Attorney General of the state. Amazingly, he was just hit, though, with allegations of domestic abuse, violence against an ex-girlfriend who herself is a liberal activist. Interesting, but it gets weirder than that. A woman called Ilhan Omar won the Democratic primary to replace Ellison in the 5th Congressional District of Minnesota. She has been accused of executing a bizarre immigration fraud involving a marriage to her own brother. We don't make this up, we merely report it. Scott Johnson is a lawyer in Minnesota, founder of the blog Powerline, and a very keen observer of politics in the state. He joins us tonight. Scott, first to the Ellison story. Just to be clear, this is not a conventional Me Too thing. This is an allegation of violence, correct?
Correct. But the charges just were made public on Saturday evening, and they are still reverberating. As of this afternoon, the Democrats were asking Keith Ellison to answer questions, which he has so far refused to do.
Not all allegations are true, of course, and I think it's always important to remember that. How credible are these allegations?
Well, from what I've looked at, I think that they are quite credible. They were originally made by the lady's son on a Facebook post, and they cause people to take a look back at the lady's tweets over the period of time that she was dating Ellison, and she alludes to being the subject of abuse in a Me Too kind of fashion without naming the perpetrator. But in fact, she was dating Ellison at the time. There are photographs of the two of them together, and I think the allegations, it's fair to say, he should not be presumed guilty, but they are serious.
I mean, Al Franken was forced out of the Senate for something far less than this. It'll be interesting to see. So tell us about the woman who was just nominated to replace him in the 5th Congressional District, married her brother? Can that be right?
Well, I'm still asking myself that question. I got a tip 2 years ago that, in fact, Ilhan Omar was married to 2 guys, and that her brother was husband number 2. And so far as I was able to check it out at the time, it seemed to check out, and I asked her campaign to comment on what I had found, and they sent me back an email from a criminal defense attorney refusing to respond to the allegations and calling me a bigot. Well, after I wrote about it on Powerline, a local reporter for a small online publication called Alpha News, Priya Samsunder, followed up on what I had written, and Priya found all kinds of social media evidence supporting the evidence that husband number 2 was in fact her brother. And as Ilhan explained at the time, she had never legally married husband number 1, who she has always held out as her husband and the father of her children, and explained that she married husband number 2 for a short period of time, 8 years later, but has refused to answer any questions about him in the 2 years since we've been writing about it.
You think of Minnesota as such a straight-laced state. I guess we need to revise our view of it. Scott Johnson, thank you very much. Really an expert on that subject, for sure. Thanks.
I appreciate your interest, Tucker. Thank you.